Awkward, thank you so much for joining us today. Dude, we've invited you here in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and power. And in that spirit, thank you for joining us. You're one of the first Twitter blue check marks that we've had join us. So thanks for joining us, buddy. Yeah, how you doing today? What's up?
I'm glad to be here. I don't know how much credibility the blue check adds, but yes, I am. It's my pleasure.
Awesome. So, we know each other, as we were mentioning before the jump, that we met each other doing Kenzo Shibata's very first episode of his show. That's a show that him and I started doing, 30 or so weeks ago. And it's been a blast, a wild ride. Yeah. How have you been these past 30 weeks? What you been up to?
Man, a lot. I don't even know. Got vaccinated.
Hey.
What else? But, that's only going to last a few months. So I guess I have to get vaccinated again.
Yeah. What do you mean? Like the Johnson? It only lasts a few months?
No, I got one of the other ones, but I think they only last 6 months. That's my understanding.
Fuck.
Yeah. I've, I haven't done, I've just been so busy. I haven't had a chance to work on my album yet. But that is in the works. Been really just continuing to focus on spreading awareness about what's going on with policing and mass incarceration in this country for the most part, as well as beginning to organize for the millionth time since last April a possible general strike. I've been on and off trying to organize that. We've had periods of success. So on May Day, there were a lot of local successes across the country. On Juneteenth, there was the really successful West Coast port shutdown. But throughout this, this now year plus, we've gotten a lot of support from other predominantly leftists, but working class people. I've interviewed Christian Smalls, who goes by Shutdown Amazon on Twitter, because that's, what he's been working on. He was kind of thrust into the spotlight as an organizer. And then in the last year, my cat says hi. Then in the last year, founded the Congress of Essential Workers. And that platform is pretty much what we would be looking to achieve with a general strike. But throughout this year plus, we have gotten virtually no interaction from the unions. And typically with this kind of thing, that's going to be pretty essential. So I am pleased to say that, we do have a call coming up with Sarah Nelson, who's a very vocal leader in, and supportive of many strikes and smaller strikes, across industries. But she's the head of the flight attendants union. And so we're moving forward with that. And we now have, as far as my organization, 10 demands. We have actions that people can take because despite successes of hundreds of millions of dollars defunded from certain police departments across 20 cities since the murder of George Floyd, and the funding of alternatives to cops in cages in the 150 million range. Overall, in 2021, police funding actually increased again. And as we see throughout 2021, cops kill more than 3 people every day. And this isn't stopping. So, criminalized communities, if they're not killed, they're incarcerated, and the communities continue to get weaker and weaker with the lack of the support and services to actually be safe and healthy. So now you can go to 10forjustice.com and send an open letter to your mayor, your state or federal congressperson, or your governor. On the Take Action page. So in addition to continuing the education, we also have a clear action step that anyone can do some people might not be in a position to go out and protest or to, assist with mutual aid efforts, but anyone can text on their phone pretty much in today's society. So that's now an option.
Awesome. Yeah, you laid out a lot of what's keeping you busy. On top of the rap, you're a busy guy, huh?
Yeah. Plus raising 2 teenage girls.
Oh my God.
And working from home with about 20 cats that my wife is breeding. So yeah, it's a hectic life, man. As soon as I moved out of New York City, all the fun, all the going out stuff kind of ended, and the work began.
All right. Dude, amazing stuff here. So, okay, awkward. One of the things that I do want to let you know, we're not going to solve the world's problem with a podcast. Not just one. It might take 2, maybe 3. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But the idea is we're planting seeds here, and hopefully we'll be able to return and continue to dig down and ask you the tough questions and ask you to spell things out for me and my audience. Just so you know, really quick, I'm sort of like baby leftist, and I'm also a small brain. So it's a bad combination, but I try to keep an open mind, and, I've created the show to allow people to talk to me and share their stories with us. So again, thank you for being with us. Already we're hitting some things that I think are really great. You mentioned a general strike. Do you mind just touching on that a little bit? Start from like square one. What is that? Why would it be a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, as Christian Smalls said, it's the easiest thing we could possibly do and would be the most effective. In a capitalist society, everything runs on money, and very few corporations control everything. It's the same corporations that build private prisons, that provide phones, provide food, provide clothing in state and federal prisons, that the same corporations that fund police foundations, and the same corporations that fund all of our politicians on the left and right. And a general strike, yeah, that's a great picture of it right there. And a general strike means don't work, don't shop except for at local stores for necessities, don't go to school. Just, the capitalist mechanisms, they're the cats for you. This is particularly good. They often say hi, but this is a whole new level.
I like how they're blurred out, too. It's funny. Okay.
Yeah, it is funny.
Good effect.
A general strike means everything comes to a halt. And as Christian said, within days, these billionaires that are losing millions every day would be on their knees. This is the power that we, the people, have, and it's up to us to just do it. And it's the simplest thing, because we don't have to leave our house. Actually, the instruction is to not leave the house. It's just sit there and chill, and we win. And that's why it's the kind of thing that if we get the grassroots support, if we get the union support, it's actually feasible. It's far more feasible than a full-scale revolution, for instance, and changing the entire economic system overnight. But a general strike could lead to things like universal basic income. It could lead to Medicare for all. It could lead to true racial justice, housing for all. There are a ton of things that I have laid out. Over the last year plus, that, as I said, the Congress of Essential Workers, I was not involved in the creating of their platform, but when I looked at it before, meeting with Chris for my show, I was like, yeah, this is it. I mean, it includes a living wage. It includes, actual workers being shareholders of the businesses for which they work. That's a monumental change. Job security, paid sick leave and hazard pay, free health care, no wage cap, PPE provided at all times, childcare, monthly bonuses, and the Congress of Essential Workers is very focused on work and essential workers. But there are other things that, in my ideal world, we would include as well, such as changes to the way, the things that we're funding, putting all of our money in the Pentagon and police budgets, having a police budget that is bigger than all government military budgets across the world except our own in China, that's insane. And then you add our Pentagon budget, that money could go to feed the 40 million people who go hungry every night. The million people who are homeless could be housed or, possibly, given the services that they need where they can remain housed where they are in non-traditional homes, but not have their houses destroyed or be arrested just for living in public space. And so for me, while we're doing all kinds of other things that, require a lot of additional effort, like protesting, while we're trying to boost down ballot progressive candidates who actually support these ideals, with a really, I guess, strategic and with mutual aid that has the strength that it needs, we would be able to successfully general strike for as long as we needed to until they listened. So that's a big part of what I think we'll be talking with Sarah about is, how mutual aid can work in that, because a lot of people are going to be afraid to general strike if they're not certain they're going to get the financial support and necessary goods and services they need, without the certainty of mutual aid. So that's a big part of it as well.
That's a lot of good shit right there. I'm going to insist we sort of push forward in the interview here, only because I got sort of a hard stop at the hour mark here. Maybe we could push a little bit past, but again, I have an interview right after yours, awkward. But all right, let's keep pushing forward, dude. I think
I don't think people like to listen longer than an hour anyway.
Nice.
Even I get boring.
No, I honestly think that. I also have like attention span of a guppy, and this is the only thing that helps me out. Having a little format, keep it tight here. Okay, so I'm going to insist we move on to the leftward bound portion of the interview, where I ask you a little bit about your discussion towards leftism. You don't have to be a leftist to be on the show. You could be left adjacent, and you don't have to define your ideology if you don't like to. If you want to and you're comfortable, you're encouraged. But how about that? A little discussion about your pathway left.
Yeah, I mean, there was no pathway. I was born this way. And I think the safest way to describe me would be leftist. I have intentionally avoided ever, although I get labeled by all kinds of people, all kinds of things, commie, fascist, and, as a true anti-fascist, the fascists, like to call you a fascist. I get called a commie, all the time. Nice. But, I've never labeled myself anarchist, socialist, anything, but I am certainly as far left as you can go. And as I said, I was born this way. My mom was, an activist, who raised me, to follow in her footsteps. I, at an early age, identified the ills of society. I experienced anti-Semitism, a great deal as a youth, and witnessed the even worse treatment, the microaggressions that are faced by Black and brown people. I saw what homelessness looks like firsthand, and those are the kinds of things that inspired me to, along with my mom's help, eventually shift from angry Nazi beater to strategic activist trying to make positive change. But as far as my politics go, I've always been this way. And if anything, I've pushed those around me further left as well.
That's based awkward. Okay. Then I guess we can move forward. This is great. I thought we were going to be short on time, but now we're making up. Look at that.
Depends on the question, man. I'm not always long-winded.
No, I love it. Well, I don't know. Anything else along the way that pushed you left or pulled you left? I just want to make sure I exhaust this topic before we move forward. Anything personal, politics, or even anything you read, personal experiences, others' experiences. I don't know, anything.
I mean, like I said, experiencing anti-Semitism made me angry. And then realizing that what I experienced was so much less than what others experience. Yeah. And then realizing that what is occurring in our country and internationally systemically makes these microaggressions almost, not essential as core issues. Realizing that that everything that we experience interpersonally is a result of generations of disinformation and propaganda that is intentional. And just always having this innate passion for justice, I think, has always driven me. To me, I look at people from the center to the right, and they're far less interested in justice and equity for everybody. They've translated Darwin into a personal thing. The Protestant ethic and capitalism and all of that stuff inspires them to focus on themselves and what's best for themselves and, maybe their own families. But for me, I can't truly do the best job as a father and raise my children to be, to put them in the best position if I'm only focused within my household. And that's the way I'm raising them now. And having two daughters, one of whom is brown and one of whom looks more like me, is also really interesting, as, they're very aware of the work that I do. And we have regular conversations, about the different experiences they're going to have in dealing with police, for instance, and how they're treated differently in schools. And then they teach me a lot of things too, that, as younger people who understand, gender and sexuality even better than I do. I studied that, but what I studied 20 years ago isn't the same as the way people are talking about it now. And so now that they're teenagers, there's a really positive, interchange of pushing each other in the right direction, which is always left.
That's cool. Okay, so we get to move on then, Awkward. I get to ask you in this next portion of the show we call #BeBest. You're already touching on some stuff right there. But maybe if you had the chance to go back in time and distill your life into some life lessons, or even your journey left into some lessons, and you wanted to share that with a younger version of yourself, going back in time, or, just more generically, someone could benefit from listening in chat or to the replay here. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think be true to yourself, and understand who you are, not just like inside your own head, but who you are, how you were born, what you look like, your gender, your race, your class, affects your surroundings and the way you're seen, and how you can and should interact with other people. One of the things that I learned growing up was the importance of listening and the importance of amplifying other voices, leveraging my privilege, not to command attention and control conversation, but to provide safe spaces for those who might not ordinarily have it. As someone who is incredibly passionate as a younger person, when I was one of the leaders of the Student Activist Union in college, I experienced, really helpful feedback that, I was talking too much, I was elected to this position, and it was one of my roles to help organize and lead these meetings. But there were feelings that there was not enough space for other people. And I'm really glad I learned that. I wish I'd learned it even younger, but I'm glad I learned it in my late teens, early 20s, because it's influenced the way I have acted as part of 10 Demands. It is influenced a variety of other experiences that I've had. It experiences the way I speak to people online. It is really important that you don't speak over people, that you don't speak for people, and that you recognize your privilege, particularly if you're a straight male who looks like me.
Exactly. That's very much in the spirit of the show here. But despite that, we're going to get some straight white males to hang out with me from time to time. It is what it is. This is not to demean you, Awkward. This has been a fascinating conversation. I'm loving every moment of this. This is based as fuck. Okay.
Yeah,
so go on, please.
Well, I was just going to say, I could have sworn I put that on silent. Sorry.
Good reminder. It's okay.
Actually is on silent and still rang. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if you can see that. Whatever. It's ridiculous. I don't know how they pulled that off. Spam. Yeah. So, that's just a weird thing. Like, my daughter, who looks like me, is not white technically, but passes. As a Palestinian Jew, I'm not white technically, but I pass. And so the labels are less important than, like, the way you label yourself or the way others label you is less important than the greater society's treatment of you as a result of the labels they will put you in. You know what I mean? So, like, whether I'm white or not, it doesn't matter, because what I look like determines how I'm going to be treated at a job interview. My last name will determine the likelihood of my getting the job interview in the first place. The way I look will certainly impact the way police treat me. So it's incredibly important.
Awkward. We talked about being true to yourself, but you mentioned it with the lens of sort of having that self-awareness, and I think that was a really wonderful piece of advice. Excellent. So we get to move on then to the Leftist Inquisition. This is the questionnaire. Everyone loves it. No one hates it. And you could pass or skip any question for any reason. I don't care. It's all good. Cool. We're just getting to know each other, having a little fun here. First question is, do you have a favorite word? I know you like words.
Yeah, man. Maybe I should have studied before we did this. I have to say awkward, even though I'm not sure that's my favorite word. My kids love the word literal. Every single time we argue, they say literally over and over again. But literally, I think awkward has to be mine.
Do you have a least favorite word, awkward?
Literally. Because it's misused constantly. Yeah. You don't mean literally.
They don't. So, Awkward, do you have a favorite drug? Maybe a favorite vice or guilty pleasure? If you like, you can name one of each.
Oh, man. Well, before I was sober, my favorite drug was definitely cocaine. I also smoked an insane amount of weed. And weed is the kind of thing that, I don't feel. Actually, I went to rehab and they told me in rehab, weed's not a problem. Don't worry about that. You can do that, which I thought was the most insane thing I'd ever heard, because I went in there telling them that, like, I was going broke. I was smoking so much weed. So for me, it was a problem and it made me lazy. But weed is the kind of thing where, like, the worst it's going to do is make you lazy and broke. Coke could have killed me at any moment. So what's fun and what's appropriate are probably two different things. Right now, I can't say I have a vice at all. The only thing I can think of would probably be watching some dumb TV shows that no one would imagine I watched.
Awesome. Well, thank you for permission for smoking copious amounts of weed.
I fully support decriminalization of all drugs, as well as sex work, for what it's worth.
It is a pain in the ass that it's so fucking expensive. It's a goddamn plant. All right.
Right? It's absurd.
We could just let me grow it. Okay.
I think we will all be able to very soon.
I hope so. I really hope. And
I know this isn't the segment. It isn't the segment, but I do have to say, and it's part of 10 Demands. Legalizing marijuana is just one tiny part of this process. If we do not free everyone who's incarcerated for these crimes, and if we do not intentionally fund the communities most impacted by the war on drugs, and intentionally boost up Black-owned businesses, Latino-owned businesses, to end the monopoly of white-owned businesses who do this legally, we're not doing it right.
Absolutely, yeah. What they've done is they've admitted that it's a failed, immoral law that's been just fucking over lives for no good reason. We should be talking about reparations.
Yeah, for sure, and that's also the 10 Demands.
Yeah, and that's at the top. Yes, let us smoke it, but let's fix the lives that we've ruined along the way. That's most important to me. Yeah. Okay. On to sounds and noises. You're a musician. Do you have a sound or noise that you love? It could be anything.
A sound or noise that I love. I don't normally talk about sex, but I think, the first thing that popped into my head is like the sound of doing my job. Right? Knowing it's working.
It's working. Yeah. Oh, okay. I love it. Do you have a sound or noise awkward that you hate, or even if you get hung up on the word, maybe you just don't like it, you intensely dislike it?
Yeah, I love that my answers are so non-musician. My least favorite noise is the alarm clock.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's terrible.
Every morning is torture. I swear to God. I don't know. I'm a night person. I used to be in the studio till 4 a.m, sleep till noon, like go out into the streets, and like my life is so different now. Like it's been years though, and I still can't get up.
Do you have the same sound? Do you use the same sound just to terrorize yourself?
Right. Yeah. Like the most effective sound is the worst sound. So it's torture every morning. It's like, like that'll torture anybody.
You ever have one of those real alarm clocks with like actual bells that like actually hits it with a hammer?
Oh, that
holy cool. Smokes! It's like a 5-alarm fire in your bedroom every day. I would
love that though, because that's old school.
So old school.
Yeah.
All right then. Now we're on to the cheese question. I don't know where were you. Yeah.
Do you hear what's going on in the background?
I hear a couple of cats. I've heard a cat or two.
Like, I hate to interrupt you, but like for anyone who may be listening, there's like a war going on. I have 2 kids who are home and no one is helping. Hey.
The cats are warring?
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Where were you raised, Awkward? Were you raised in either France or Wisconsin? I know it's a strange question.
Where was I raised? What about Wisconsin?
Was it either France or Wisconsin?
It was neither.
All right. So in that case, you get one answer to this question, which is, what is your favorite cheese? Unless you break the rules. I can't stop.
Got you. Shoot. This question is so important to me. Cheese is a good thing, but because I can't help myself, I have to say that I was vegan for 5 years, and I fully support veganism for a variety of reasons. For me, unfortunately, I got super skinny, and it didn't work. So now that I'm eating cheese again, it's not sophisticated, but honestly, I think a really good cheddar is probably my favorite.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Any specific kind of cheddar?
Sharp, real sharp. I mean, I feel like I want to say brie, but it's so mushy and like fancy. I'm like that just doesn't fit my style, you know. It tastes good though.
That's a class that cheese is not class conscious, but
Yeah,
cheddar.
That's what I felt, right?
But cheddar,
that's what I felt. Cheddar is working class, man.
Working class cheese, baby. All right. Good name for a song or maybe an album. I'm just going to put it out there. Awkward. This is bringing us to the reincarnation question. If you could come back at the end of your life as a plant or a non-human animal, and somehow you could choose, what would it be?
Yeah. Oh, man. I feel like I would want to be a bird. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a specific bird. My mom, really big environmentalist and really loved birds. And her favorite bird was the bluebird. And I'm about to get a bluebird on my neck, both for her and to honor my friend, Why Me, who passed away, who had a different type of bird in the same place. But as far as, at least when I was growing up, they were endangered. I don't want to be an endangered bird, but I like the idea, if it's not, I'll take bluebird, but I like the idea of being able to fly, and like the freedom in flight and being able to see everything below and have that, as they say, bird's eye view. I like that idea.
It's a good one. That is a good one. I'd love to fly. How do you pick an animal that doesn't fly when you get the choice? I don't get it. Okay, but maybe a honey badger. I do like the honey badger. Yeah,
there's a lot. I can see a lot of people picking like a lion, something like that. But I already scare people as it is. I want to be something that like is nice and doesn't offend anybody.
Yeah. Loving it so far. Moving on. This brings us to the God question. If you, at the end of your life, you go to heaven and there's God and there's heaven and there's the pearly gates and then God says something to you, what would you like that to be?
The first thing that popped into my head was you were a good Jew. And honestly, there's, it is the first thing that came to my head. I knew it would be funny, but also one of the things I do like about Judaism is that like it's built into the religion to perform mitzvahs, to give back to society. And so if he said that to me, that's what he would mean, that I was looking out for other people more than myself.
Love it. Then what do we got next? An influential leftist. Who's an influential leftist? They could be dead or alive, that you would love to be able to meet and talk to.
Well, interestingly, the two that popped into my head, I've met both of them. Hey. But I didn't have enough time to it wasn't like I got to go have lunch with them or something. But Cornel West, who said something, he called 9/11 the niggerization of America. Not directly to me. He made a speech and he said that it was shortly after 9/11. And I just will never forget that. His speech was incredible and I got to meet him after. And amazingly enough, I got to meet Howard Zinn before he died. And that was also pretty incredible, but I would love to have spent a lot more time with him as well.
Okay. So the next question has to do this is a little bit of a reach, but you can have a hypothetical conversation with either of them. It can go any way you like. Maybe you can tell them about your life. What would they think about you? You can ask them a specific question. What would that be like if you had more time to spend with them? How would that go?
I just think, and this is no offense to Cornel West. There's a ton that I could learn from that dude. But I just envision, like, if I were with Howard Zinn, I would just sit there and be like, just talk, and I would listen. With Cornel West, like, for one, he's still alive. For another, he and I focus on the exact same stuff. We have a lot of mutual associates. I've just never gotten him to I'm a tiny little guy. I never got him to really acknowledge me. I wasn't who I am now when I met him years ago. I was still becoming who I am now. I think that if I had a moment, if I had a time, he and I could build something incredible and, work together. I would love to get his involvement with 10 Demands. I would love to help him with whatever the hell he's doing.
Yeah, that's great, Awkward. So the next question is, do you have a favorite leftist book, author, resource, something like that?
Oh, man,
I know you got a bunch of resources on your 10 Demands site, so I do want to put that out there. You got a list of resources here.
Yeah, I mean that probably helps. I mean, cool. As an abolitionist, I absolutely recommend starting with Our Prisons Obsolete, which is why it's at the top there. And to be honest, like the list is not in any particular order, but there was no chance we weren't putting Angela Davis's Our Prisons Obsolete at the top. That was incredibly informative for me, and I think a great starting point for anyone who's interested in understanding what abolition means, as well as why it is, the only way that we can effectively fix what is so ingrained in our society and cannot be reformed, as the reforms, as Angela Davis has said, only strengthen the institution itself.
Awesome. Our Prisons Obsolete. I'll put it on my reading list, which is way too big. So thanks.
Yeah. So, and then I'll just say, if you read that, there's a million of these incredible works, and particularly by Black feminist women. But I would say that, there's also a much newer book, Prison by Any Other Name, that just came out by my friend Maya Chenoir, and Vicky Law, who I interviewed for my show. And, that really, after reading Our Prisons Obsolete, if you read this, you'll understand what we mean by reforms only strengthen the system. Prison by Any Other Name talks about all the different ways that people who are only willing to go so far to create a more friendly or gentler version of genocide, do these reforms that are touted on both sides of the aisle, but just create new versions of what we've already been dealing with. So things like, electronic monitoring, probation, parole, these kinds of things, were intended to kind of reform the system of mass incarceration. But in the end, there are people who would never have gotten prison time who now have probation instead and are essentially imprisoned in their own homes. So it's just expanded the carceral hold on our society.
This is great shit, and I think I'm gonna have to do homework by the next time we talk. Awkward. You've given me work to do here.
Your thoughts on these things.
I'm excited to see how this conversation evolves, buddy. This is an absolute pleasure here. The last question is streamer tips. I don't know if you watch streams, but you probably are. You can maybe change this question. I should just change it to content tips. So think of, podcasts, YouTubes, anything that you watch. You're probably a consumer of some of those. You probably have been on a bunch of them yourself. Have you ever done your own podcast?
Well, I don't know. People call it a podcast. I mean, the Awkward Interviews is a YouTube show. There you go. It's a lot less professional than yours in the set. I have no production at all. I don't have segments. I don't have graphics, but I basically invite social justice warriors that I love and appreciate on, and we talk about what they're doing. So I've done, I think, 11 or 12 episodes of that. I have a lot of people coming up. I'm booked to into September. So I don't know if that's a podcast, but I do do that.
All right. So coming from there, and also as a someone who watches some from time to time or listens to podcasts or other types of media, what What tips do you have for people? Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like, I don't have time to do anything. I'm either interviewing someone, being interviewed, organizing something, writing something, whatever. But, if I had to give people tips, which feels weird to me, I am no professional, podcast or anything. I think the stuff that you're doing makes it look more professional, and I think I don't know. I think if someone did that for me, I'd be like, yeah, this is awesome. It looks a lot cooler, and I would appreciate that. But I think, and this isn't to you, they're all more professional than mine. But not everyone knows how to talk to people. So my general comment would be focus more on understanding the person you're interviewing and the kinds of questions that would be inspiring to them, intriguing to them. And, I think you do a really good job of like making sure things don't go too long, but but then there's the other end of stopping people too short, and I had one interview where I felt like I almost lost control, where the person talked a ton and I didn't really get to ask a lot of questions. But for the most part, I do like to just kind of play it by ear and let the conversations go and feed off of what they're saying. So, I think, it's interesting because as an interviewee, I really enjoyed these questions that you asked me. They're fun and they're different and they were planned. So I'm almost contradicting myself because I really enjoyed this. And yet at the same time, when I'm thinking about how I interview people and what works, I tend to know everything I can about the person, but plan almost nothing and have it be more of a conversation. And that's to me how I get these like amazing quotes from them each time. Of course, I'm picking the right people. But like, you're not going to get the best stuff out of someone. And again, this isn't to you. This is answering your question. You're not going to get the best stuff out of people unless they feel really comfortable and like in the midst of a conversation. If you can convince someone no one's listening and they're just having a conversation, they're going to say things, they're going to open up and they're going to be more comfortable and say things that they may not say if they were feeling more controlled or like, more monitored or whatever the word might be.
There's a lot of really good shit in there, Awkward. I really appreciate your answer there. You started off by like, hey, I'm not a professional, but that was a lot of really good stuff. I love that.
And then I would say one other thing.
Please.
It's completely different. I'm really not impressed with you if you are just saying shit as like the host. You're just saying shit to like get people pissed off or if you're just trying to be controversial. I have someone in mind, but I don't want to give this person more airtime. And it's not just this person. I'm sure there are a ton of people who do it. Like, you're not authentic. You're not trustworthy. If you'll do whatever the hell it takes to like get more clicks. That doesn't impress me. That's all.
Yeah. It annoys me. I see through it. There's many of those kinds of actors and all types of these on like all platforms, dude.
Yeah.
Got to be super suspicious. Skepticism becomes a tool. Yeah.
And you know what? To go along with that, don't platform Nazis.
Easy. But for some reason, people can't stop it,
Yeah.
Line goes up when you platform the Nazis, I think.
Yeah. And as an abolitionist, over time, I grew. I learned, I literally went from following in my cousin's footsteps. They co-founded the Skinheads Against Racial Prejudice and beating up Nazis to just hating Nazis and avoiding them, while doing positive work. to now understanding better that anyone can be reformed, in the same sense that systems that are doing exactly what they're intended to cannot be reformed. Like a carceral system needs a non-carceral alternative. Human beings within an abolitionist framework all have the power to be repaired and transformed. And in transformative justice, both the perpetrator and the victim are transformed through the justice process. So I'm not arguing that someone who spent their life, being a Nazi, has to always be a Nazi. This person likely is the product of families, generations, communities, generations of disinformation and hate rhetoric, and also is often in a position where they feel that they don't have what they need. So poverty is often a great predictor of this kind of, ideology, because for the same reason that Hitler was so successful before World War II, they needed to blame someone. So instead of blaming the capitalist system, the corporations, the politicians who don't care about us, they blame the immigrants. They blame black people and affirmative action. They blame Jews who they think they've been told control everything. And there's just as much likelihood that you can untrain that as there is that they could be trained that way in the first place. On the other hand, though, instead of giving platform to a newly reformed former Nazi who now wants to lead the leftist movement, platform a black woman who's been doing this for 20 years. And I'm not going to invite a former Nazi into my strategy meetings where we're already in fear of infiltration overnight. Like, I hate to say it, but as much as I trust that you can change, you need to prove to me that you are a safe person who's going to behave the way we expect everyone to behave in these spaces.
Awkward. I fucking love that. So you mentioned how, sometimes these interviews become a little bit too one-sided, and guess what? I built in a little chance for you to ask me any questions. So if you happen to have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, we do also open up questions to the chat, and literally I have just about I got about 5 minutes, probably 5 minutes here.
Okay.
Definitely no more than 10 because this is so fun. I want this to go forever. But again, we're planting seeds, and we're going to, hopefully next time I really do hope we have another chance to talk. This has been so wonderful for me, and I think my audience as well. But, effectively next time we do talk, we're just going to return to the sort of seeds that we planted and see what's growing, and then maybe plant a couple more. And it's going to become a little bit more organic for whatever it's worth. This is sort of what I call the first round of interviews. This is to help me to get to know people, and so that we can have those organic talks. I hope that makes sense, though. But fuck yeah, dude. I loved everything you said.
Just to tease you, though.
Yeah.
This is, this is all based on the assumption that you can get your guests back. What if they don't want to come back?
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, we've done an hour. I've sort of extended my hand, trying to build bridges here.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm incredibly busy, and I apologize for how I think I had to reschedule a couple times, but there's absolutely no reason I wouldn't come back. So
don't worry about it. I'm looking forward to it. And it's easy to sign up, right? You just sign up, and you get a time, and everything's good to go. All right. No problems. Yeah. Did you have any questions for me? Otherwise, I'll hand it to the chat. I think I saw one question that I saw asked earlier. Otherwise, we'll start with you. Awkward.
Let's do that question.
Okay.
Just because short on time.
I think we were talking about, did you mention watching TV and stuff like that? What TV shows you watch?
So if I were still single, I would watch, to shut off at night, I would watch basketball every single night. In a family of 3 women, I can only watch basketball for a very short period of time, very quietly, before I fall asleep. So the shows we end up watching are Married at First Sight. Yeah, you're going to love this. Okay. Married at First Sight. The show where they What's the show where the people get married like across countries? 90 Day Fiance.
Oh my God, I keep hearing this.
Yeah, and Survivor is another one that I actually really enjoy, and I could have watched that growing up. I didn't. I watched no TV growing up, and then like shows like Grey's Anatomy and Station 19. So these are all new to me since I became a family man.
Bless your heart. Oh my gosh, what a good dude.
Yes, that is right. I want credit not for my activist work, but for being a good husband and father.
Dude, what a fucking good wife dude here. Yeah. Beautiful. I don't see any more questions from chat.
All right.
Chat, let us know. Let us know.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're a bad faith actor, which is a term I find annoying, but it's pretty clear what it means, and you're attacking me, calling me names, there is a good chance I will see and respond. I try, unless Twitter's blowing up for some reason. I usually see when people tag me. So if you do want to talk to me, if after watching this, you certainly can. Looks like my Twitter name is on the screen.
Yeah, and I'm dropping your links in the chat as well. They got your Twitter link there, Awkward Rap, 10forjustice.com. That book list looks like it's giving me plenty to work on. It's going to give me a lot to chew on for like a whole year.
Yeah, it's a lot. Absolutely.
A lot. So maybe we'll have to schedule it again after a year.
Yeah,
whatever, a couple of weeks, whatever, months.
Yeah, there's more than enough research and more than enough theory and more than enough thought, stemming from the research and theory that supports defunding to abolish. The people who refuse to acknowledge that are unable to, unlearn what we've been taught since birth. We are led to believe that policing and prisons are the only answers, that, crime equals punishment. And, that was all created by people. And we can also create an alternative to that.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. Question from chat. Do you freestyle? And I'm not asking you to. I just want to be clear. Well, this is your profession. This is what you're good at. I'm not going to ask you to do it for free.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, when I was more focused on music, and less focused on the activist stuff, and I was doing tons. I mean, I lived in the city. I was in the studio all the time, surrounded by other rappers, and doing tons of interviews like this, but on music shows. I was freestyling constantly, and I, you could probably look it up and find some. Back then I was really good, but it's the kind of thing that, it is like learning a book in the sense that, riding a bike, in the sense that if you can do it, you can kind of always do it. But as a professional, I refuse to do it now on the spot because, I know how good I used to be, and I am so out of practice that you get rusty, and it's not nearly as good as actually listening to the 10 Demands song, for example, where I sat down and I thoughtfully constructed, musical poetry, to tell a story. I highly recommend checking out that song in particular because it's my most recent. I think it's my best, and I think it's very timely and poignant.
Awesome. Love it. Well, Awkward, I have to insist we wrap things up right here. This has been a wonderful time. Thank you so much for joining us today. You're great, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, dude.
Thanks
Again,
as well. Thanks to your audience as well.
They liked you a lot, and for good reason. We invited you in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and power. In that spirit, buddy, thank you again for your time. Thank you for sharing your story. Lots of valuable insight, lots of valuable tips, and we planted a lot of seeds that I think are very much worth revisiting and digging into and sharing with my audience a little bit more and building that road to abolition, huh?
Dude, I just saw this chat. I had no idea this was real. So now I'm seeing what people are writing. Thank you about the stash. That's pretty funny. That stash is extra thick.
Dude, yeah. It's push broom stash. I can't pull that off. It's like so much more rich than. Although you do got some redness in the beard. Way to go, red beard, brother.
Yeah, people think that I'm Irish. I don't know. It gets very red. And as far as a book by a black feminist, you can kill two birds with one stone with that Angela Davis book. But there's a ton of others. Mariam Kaba is an incredible person, brilliant abolitionist who has at least one book on that list. Rebecca Purnell is a friend of mine who has at least a few articles on the list as well. So those are some good examples.
Excellent. Okay, awkward. We're going to let you go, buddy. Peace and solidarity. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
All right. Oops. Hold on. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You didn't do anything wrong. Awkward. That was rapper awkward. That was awesome. Hey, YouTube. You're watching a clip from my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/iDanSimpson, where you can follow for free and subscribe for only $5 a month. Thanks for watching.